Welcome back, my friends, to the Legend of PikVille Heavy Industries. In this week's episode, we discuss the origin of one of PHI's most successful ventures ever. It's also one of those splits where the idea comes from one time-space and is developed into a dynamo in another, though there are no cross-dimensional spies this time. But first, we need to acknowledge this week's title sponsor, Thunderchild's Wild Talent Agency. This episode of the Legend of PikVille Heavy Industries is sponsored by Thunderchild's Wild Talent Agency. The folks who know Scapegoats-R-Us is the only reason our animal-powered ventures haven't exploded into chaos. Thank you, SRU, for keeping the paperwork calm, the handlers upright, and the animals employed. Thunderchild's Wild Talent Agency, depending on Scapegoats-R-Us since day one. Thanks, Thunderchild, that was really something. Let's start this one up. As I mentioned in the opener of this episode, the idea for Scapegoats-R-Us began in one time space, this one actually, but was realized as a full-blown business venture in another. Unlike the last time we ran into such a split, there wasn't a corporate spy involved. No, it was slightly weirder than that, as almost all things involving Big John Olson were likely to be. Perhaps if you get to know Johnny a little first, it will help us understand a complicated story of a complicated life. Or lives, as the case may be. In this time-space, John was born into one of those families with lots of slightly too attractive kids, and he was no exception. Being 6'6" or so doesn't hurt, nor did the blonde hair and the handsome face. It was impossible to hate him for it, though, because the sheer goofiness of the guy was totally disarming. In a world of people that are most generally walking contradictions, John fit in very well. In a world where you had to count on people to do what you ask every once in a while, not so much. Don't get me wrong, he would try sometimes, but somehow it seldom turned out in the way it was intended. I'm not assassinating the character of the guy. I really love the big galoot. But he could be very frustrating to deal with at times. But first we need to deal with another ad read. Summer's coming, and so are the pests. But at WildWorks Labor Force, we've got a solution that's 100% natural and 42% off our regular, intentionally mysterious price. Book now and get a full WildWorks pest control crew. Anteaters for ground-level invaders, vermilion flycatchers for anything buzzing through the air, and our specially trained bee wolves, which are insects, tiny wasp hunters with big attitudes. All professionally trained at the Tackett Family Zoo. WildWorks Labor Force, your pests don't stand a chance. And now back to our fascinating story. The thing about Johnny is that he was hilarious. His perspective was skewed enough from the rest of us that it was just wacky. If we were able to follow along with him, though, he had some really good ideas. One of which was Scapegoats-R-Us. The story goes something like this. Johnny and I were sitting at Bogey's one night, though I believe it was still the Horse and Hound at the time. Anyway, we had plenty of beers, and believe me, the man could put away the Bud Lights. He didn't like real beer, but if it was in front of him, he'd probably drink it. The conversation was all over the place, as it always was, but somehow got around to his desire to not actually be blamed for everything that went wrong. I pointed out that it was usually his fault, to which he agreed but said, "Still." "So you want someone to step in for you?" I said, to which he replied, "Well, yeah." We then spent about an hour of coming up with different scenarios and responses for them, enough so that we basically had a business plan by the end of my fourth beer and his seventh Bud Light. Little did he know that I was already deep into the unclear reactors research and wasn't going to pursue what we both agreed was a tremendous idea. Left to his own devices, he did the expected. Nothing. Little did I know that in the most bizarre case of quirkiness, the multiverse would not allow this idea to die in the vacuum of space. No, it seems that in another time-space, that John was in fact sitting with Beeve, or Keith as the government insists on calling him, at the Horse and Hound, in the same seat, at the same bar, having more or less the same convo, though at a higher volume level. At some point, the two Johns in two different time spaces, inhabiting the exact same bar stool in the exact same bar, their blood alcohol levels matched at the exact same time, that in this time space, this John and I shouted at the exact same time, "Scapegoats-R-Us!" The weird part is that John heard us talking in this time space, and this shouldn't exactly happen. But with Johnny, turns out there were significant differences in personality of the two Johns, as that one jumped on the idea, brought it to that me within a few days, and had that me convinced by my fourth beer. And soon we, and when I say we, I mean that me and mostly that John, took the seed of an idea to fruition as a multi-universal success story. For those of you that are not familiar with Scapegoats-R-Us, I think I can sum it up for you thusly. At Scapegoats-R-Us, our employees are the best at being the worst. There are, in fact, many ways to enter the blame management racket or business. Of course, there is risk management, trying to prevent the need for blame in the first place, which of course is not all that likely, humans being what they are. There are also the legal avenues to be explored, using the court system to remove yourself from liability, if applicable. Sometimes this is the answer if you are actually innocent, or at least not guilty. HB, our corporate legal counsel at PHI, has yet to cut us any slack and insists that we take full responsibility for all of our missteps. And when HB insists, no one resists. She isn't known as the angel-faced assassin for nothing. Maybe your lawyer has a different moral code. There are, shall we say, extra legal options available to some. Removing the people that require an apology is wrong, legally and morally, and is in no way endorsed by anyone related to PHI or any of its many subsidiaries. Scapegoats-R-Us has chosen to enter in the bottom half of the equation. Acceptance. Ours, not yours. We will step into almost any situation that isn't criminal or physically injurious, and steer those side-eyed expressions away from you and straight towards us. Forgot an anniversary? Always respond with an incredulous, "You didn't get it?" and call us immediately. Within 2 hours and 45 minutes, you will have a delivery man that has obviously been injured in either a traffic accident or a mugging, complete with police report, that apologizes profusely for what happened to him while trying to make your delivery of any combo of candy, flowers, jewelry. Or maybe you totally spaced that important report that your boss needed by 10 a.m., and it's now 7:15 a.m. If you call us immediately, within 2 hours and 45 minutes, you will remember that you had left your laptop with the report in your car on the charger. The phone call from the fire department, who are in the parking lot holding a burnt laptop case next to your still smoking car, comes just in time. And if your boss is a real stickler, we can even send realistic letters from your insurance company denying your claim for as long as needed. As you can see, we will go as far as you pay us to keep your butt from the proverbial fire. And speaking of fire, if we don't do this last ad read, I'm going to get fired. Scapegoats-R-Us is issuing an urgent call for help. Our political department is overwhelmed, overworked, and frankly out of goats. Demand for our service is at an unprecedented level, and we simply don't have enough brave souls willing to step up, take the heat, and say, "Yep, that one's on me." We're offering high pay, overtime potential, and a hefty hiring bonus for anyone willing to absorb blame at the municipal, state, or federal level. Plus, enjoy a massive employee discount on Scapegoats-R-Us merch, including our new I Accept Full Responsibility travel mug. Apply at scapegoats-rus.com/careers. Scapegoats-R-Us. We take the fall so you don't have to. So that's where we'll leave it for today. A bar stool, 2 time spaces, one idea too stubborn to die, and a man named John Olson whose chaos echoes farther than physics ever intended. Scapegoats-R-Us didn't start as a business plan. It started as a joke between friends, shouted into the noise of a Tempe night, and somehow the multiverse heard it louder than we did. If there's one thing we've learned, it's this: ideas have trajectories, and some of them refuse to stay in their lane. PikVille Heavy was one of those ideas. Scapegoats-R-Us is another. We'll pick up the thread next time. The stacks are already humming. Speaking of humming, that and almost any other sound you hear that isn't my velvety voice was supplied by the ultra-talented, ultra-generous folks at Pixabay. PHI is ever grateful. Stay heavy, man.